Hi guys, I think that after this video, your stomach is going to be left churning. To some of you, it's irrelevant whether NASA are lying or telling the truth. And some of you, just because you've heard others say NASA's full of lies, you'll agree with them and you'll say the exact same thing without seeing any shred of evidence that they're lying. But you are being deceived by NASA and you're being led to a cliff. And I'm telling you now, guys, it's not going to be until you peek over that cliff that someone's going to give you a shove and you're all going to go over. I am deadly serious about this, guys. And I'm going to show you exactly how NASA are concealing the truth from you guys. There could be no question of a doubt, right, that when we hear NASA's expertise on a subject, and when we compare that with the facts, we find the truth of the matter. I kid you not, they're lying. And like I said, it won't be until you take a peek over the edge of that cliff that one of them will give you a kick up the arse and you'll fly over it. I am deadly serious about this, guys. I want to show you something.
In addition to these abrupt changes in activity, the sun also has a long-term, more regular pattern of change. This pattern is called the sunspot cycle, and a single cycle lasts for about 11 years, although it can be as short as 8 or as long as 14, and it can vary dramatically in intensity. During one cycle, the number of sunspots, a good indicator of solar activity, goes from low to high and back down to low. Solar minimum represents a period of time when sunspot numbers are relatively low, and solar maximum represents a period when sunspot numbers are relatively high.
Right, guys, I've stopped the video here because I want to bring your attention to something. Note the positions at solar maximum of the sunspots, right? And note that there is a lot more sunspots at solar maximum. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it? A solar maximum would have more sunspots. But what I want you to note is the positions of the sunspots, because it is the positions of the sunspots that tell us whether the sun is in a solar maximum or a solar minimum. Let me continue with the video.
During this cycle, the location of the sunspots also changes.
Right, and this is what she's about to tell you. The sunspots at solar maximum are around 30 degrees north and 30 degrees south. And when it comes to solar minimum, the sunspots are around the equatorial regions of the sun.
They are at middle latitudes during solar maximum and move closer to the equator as the sun approaches solar minimum.
So you can see we're at solar minimum now, and you can see where the sunspots are. If you just know that the positions of sunspots indicates maximum and minimum, you don't need to know how many sunspots there are to know whether you're in a maximum or a minimum. All you need to know is where they are situated on the solar disk. Like I said, guys, all you need to know is where they'll be situated on the disk to decipher whether we are in a solar maximum or a solar minimum. Remember, in solar maximums, the sunspots are around 30 degrees north and south. So if we're in a solar maximum, why aren't the sunspots at that position right now? Guys, what I'm telling you is we're in a solar minimum, and we're not in a solar maximum, and you can tell that straight away by where the positions are of the sunspots. And it goes a little bit deeper than this. Why, you might ask, does it go deeper than this? It's because solar cycle 24 peaked in 2011 and very likely already went through its magnetic reversal. And as you can see, we are well on our way to solar minimum. And proof of that is where the sunspots are right now. And what does this tell us? is that we have had an unprecedented short solar cycle, never before recorded, ever recorded. And you are looking at the solar cycle 24 right before your eyes there. So guys, you can see for yourself where the sunspots are, and you've just heard NASA tell you how you know whether the sun, other than the numbers of sunspots, how to find out whether you're in solar maximum or solar minimum. And you have just found out NASA have been telling you a pack of lies, and you've been presented with the evidence for it as well.
They are at middle latitudes during solar maximum and move closer to the equator as the sun approaches solar minimum. At solar minimum, there are sometimes no sunspots to observe. At solar maximum, there can be many at the same time. The number of sunspots is important because sunspots are the visual markers of where powerful magnetic fields have emerged from the sun's interior. These magnetic fields power solar flares and coronal mass ejections, which can affect Earth and other objects in the solar system. As the sunspots increase, so does the frequency and severity of flares and CMEs. The sun's 11-year cycle is a symptom of a longer 22-year cycle called the solar cycle, or Hale cycle, which affects the sun's magnetic fields. Every 11 years, the sun's poles flip. North becomes south and south becomes north. So every 22 years, the poles return to the position where they started the cycle. The flip is due to the complex movement of magnetic fields inside the sun that are constantly stretching, twisting, and crossing as solar material bubbles up from the sun's core. But the exact pattern of movements is not yet mapped out. Because the sunspot cycle follows a similar pattern regardless of the orientation of the poles, it only takes half as long as the solar cycle. The two cycles are different, but the 11-year sunspot cycle is often referred to as the solar cycle, which can be a little confusing. Right now, the sun is approaching solar maximum, so flares and CMEs are more common.
I'm going to stop it right there, because I've had enough of these lies. The sun is not approaching solar maximum. It is in a solar minimum. It is in a solar minimum for the sake of there is less sunspots and the position of where the sunspots are on the actual disk. You've had the evidence, guys, presented before you. Don't allow someone to lead you to the cliff and then give you a kick over. This Earth is ramping up for an ice age. You better pay attention to that. You should take note that all those volcanoes marked red and all those round circles, first of all, the volcanoes are the ones that have erupted in the last 24 hours, and the red circles are the earthquakes that have occurred in the last 24 hours. And this is just as extreme as everything else that is taking place on this earth. And I'll tell you something else, I wouldn't be surprised if the further north these earthquakes go, right, bring, just like the sun does with the sunspots and the positions, about a magnetic reversal on this earth quicker the further north they go, indicating at Earth maximum with regards to geological activity, such as earthquakes and volcanoes. So the more that we start seeing these indicators going up around the 30-degree longitude and the 30-degree, longitude south and north, will be an indication of how close we get to the Earth's magnetic reversal. And, what I'm saying here to you guys is I believe that this is the nature in which not only the sun goes through its magnetic reversals, but also the nature in which the Earth goes through its magnetic reversals. But one thing is clear. If we are receiving less solar radiation here on the surface, then it will be cooling. And if the core is increasing in heat, then you're going to see more activity, such as you are with the volcanoes and earthquakes. And the results of This will be twofold. More volcanic ash in the atmosphere will block out solar radiation, and more water vapour in the atmosphere will block out solar radiation, and you will get the same effect off both. You only need one of these to contribute to a global cooling, and guys, you've got both of them breaking down your door. And you want to hope that this does not turn into a crustal displacement, because that is a possibility, guys. That is a real possibility, because we only have to look at the the coastlines to see that these cliffs, right, that are made of chalk, for some reason have been pushed 2 to 3 to 400 feet above sea level, when at one point they was beneath the waves. I would suggest, if you've got time, to go and have a look around these areas such as Japan and even Egypt, because around the coastlines of these areas you're going to find sunken cities, and there's only one reason why they got sunk in the first place, and that was because things were moving up and down. And, like the story or the legend Atlantis, it sunk in one day. And you want to ask yourself the questions why this was the case in the first place. Guys, if you want to contribute towards this research, there's a link below. I'm going to say this to you. Be prepared. Don't wait until you are looking over the edge of that cliff before NASA puts a boot up your backside and kicks you over. For some reason, there is a lot of people in this world not telling people the truth. And you only know it's a truth when you're being presented with factual evidence, such as what I have presented you in this video. Please start taking notice of what I'm telling you guys. And please, for your family's sakes, put some provisions up, because I cannot tell you the exact moment when, this will take place. I can only give you a best indication, and I can tell you now, it is rapidly approaching the time. And I guarantee you, at that point when these things do start to happen, your mortgage, your car repayments, and your holidays to these beautiful destinations will be completely irrelevant. What will be mostly relevant to you at that point will be the safety of your family and the fact whether you've got food and water for them, and some provisions. Christ, I hope you are listening to me, guys. I really do. Like I say, link below. Rate the video, give me your feedback on this, and let me know your thoughts. Bye for now.